Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank the Danville, Pennsylvania County Chamber of Commerce for hosting me in this incredible event. My name is KLF Consulting, and I do bring you greetings from the KLF Consulting LLC, which I am a managing member of. It is a beautiful day to get out, to get to know some more folks, to participate in so many of the Zoom calls that I'm sure that you are participating in over the course of your career, thankfully, or not so thankfully to the pandemic that we're currently going through. But I do thank you very much for tuning in today to learn a little bit more about what it is that you can offer people, customers, and to just to be an overall better communicator, because that is what I foster. Before we get started even further, where I will talk to you about the presentation that I'm going to be sharing with you today, I want to get you to know a little bit more about me. Not only am I a managing manager of KLF Consulting, but I've also worked in sales. Okay, I have worked in financial services. I have worked in various industries in the sales background. So I understand exactly what is needed for all of us to foster and focus on in order to be better communicators, particularly in the area of customer service. And with that, I'm going to get started today. We're going to be learning about how important it is to listen. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to listen first, sell later. A lot of times, and I've been a sales trainer before, a lot of times we focus on selling and selling and selling because that is what we are told to do. Our sales trainers, our sales teams say sell, sell, sell. But selling is the back part of what you do. Selling is done after you have fostered the relationship with the person that you're communicating with. So today, we're going to talk about the importance of being self-aware. We have to be self-aware of who we are first before we can connect with someone else. Then we're going to talk about the importance of listening, not just listening for the sake of listening, the verb, but we're going to do it with a purpose. Then we need to understand how important it is and what we bring to the table by understanding our own self-control and being patient in order to connect with the person that you are communicating with. And ladies and gentlemen, you are communicating. And lastly, we need to understand the importance of the product that we're selling and be positive about it. And you are selling a product, whether or not you're in sales or not. If you're not selling anything other than yourself, who you are, the image that you're bringing to the relationship, you are indeed selling. So let's get started. I would like for you to think about this quote as we begin. To know yourself, you must sacrifice the illusion that you already do. To know yourself, you must sacrifice the illusion that you already do, by Veronica Tugaliva. Now let's think about that. We think we know ourselves. And as we look at the screen here, the two ladies that I'm highlighting here, we have one on the left. Look at her body language. Look at what she's presenting. Look at the smile that she's bringing forward. If you look further in that image, you'll see some people sitting behind her, but she is standing out amongst the crowd. She is exuding confidence that she understands who she is in that moment. Ask yourself, are you communicating that with your colleagues? Are you communicating that you know who you are with customers, with people that you are indeed building a relationship with? Because ladies and gentlemen, you are building a relationship with every person that you communicate with, whether it's a short hello or if it's an extensive communication message in a meeting. You are communicating. And so what are you communicating? That is the first thing in any type of communication relationship, is us understanding who we are. Look at the lady to the right. Look at her body language, which we'll talk a little bit more about. Look at her facial expression. Does she look like she wants to be there? If I would have to take a guess, and I implore you to do the same thing, she doesn't look like she wants to be there. She looks unhappy. So when you are connecting with someone, the first thing that you do is you have to ask yourself, what am I bringing to that communication relationship? So in order to be aware, we need to understand what that means. Self-awareness is being aware of ourselves. Very simple. Being aware of yourselves. Every day from this presentation forward, I want you to think, what and who am I? What do I represent? Who am I representing? And why is it important for me to represent what it is that I'm doing to the stakeholders? Who are the stakeholders? The stakeholders, first of all, is you. The stakeholders in your personal life, your family, and in your professional life, it's your colleagues, it's your supervisors, it's leaders of your organization. But whether or not someone says, not, Corey, you look sad today, not, hypothetically, Sally, you don't look like you're comfortable in this meeting. You're communicating that to the outside world. So in order to be self-aware, I would like for you to look at these 5 areas. Number 1, sensing. Sensing. As you look at the reflection of yourself in the mirror, what is it that is important for you to focus your energies on? Are you a happy person, so you seek out happy energy? Are you a sad person where what makes you happy is to be around people, be around things that is unhappy? What are you sensing? With that, whatever it is that you're sensing out there, you're thinking about internally. What do you think about? Are you a half glass full person, or are you a half glass empty person? Whether or not you know it, people are looking at you and they're thinking about what you're thinking about as you communicate with them. So what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, is if you're a half glass full person, your energy is going to show it. If you're a half glass empty person, your thinking and your actions will show that. And it is important for you to know that what you are internally thinking about, what it is that you're sensing, you're communicating that in everyday life. That's why we got to bring with ourselves first. That is why we got to think about, what is it that I am doing? Who am I when I communicate with people? Number 3, what are you feeling? How is it that you feel? What do you feel about what it is that you're doing? If you're not happy in your position, it's going to show. You're going to communicate that, okay? I have worked with people from around the world. I teach students at a college. I've talked with people. I have trained people of international background. And what I've learned is that a smile is the universal language. Every language, every ethnicity, every culture understands the importance of a smile. So you're smiling on the inside when you're happy, when you feel confident in what it is that you're doing. That is communicating, and that is resonating with the people that you're working with. What is it that you like to do? Think about that. What is it that you like to do? Is your job 100% of what it is that you do? I hope not. But if it is, let's think about things that made you where you and who you are right now. Because the job that you're seeking, the job that you're doing presently, your whole life being has equaled up, has fostered what it is that you're doing. So think about that, what you're doing, what you're sensing, and then of course, lastly, number 5, what you're wanting, what you desire, what you hope for yourself, what you hope for your job, what you hope for your life. That is communicating in your job. So again, we cannot talk about customer service, how it is that you can help other people, if we can't help ourselves. So the self-reflection, the man in the mirror, is something that we have to look at every day. And if you find, as we continue on in this presentation, that you need to improve some things, that's okay. Because in corporate training, I always tell people this, because I'm a Clint Eastwood fan. He has a very popular movie back in the 60s entitled The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And it doesn't mean the good, the bad, and the ugly is in all of us. It doesn't mean that we're bad people. It just means that in everyday choices, in everyday decision-making we must do, we need to always think about, how can I improve myself? Because if I can improve myself, I can improve my environment. If I can improve my environment, I'm going to improve my relationship with every customer, with every colleague, with every potential client I can make a connection with. And if you can do that, you're going to be an awesome salesperson. So think about this. The most important conversations you will ever have are the ones that you have with yourself. The most important conversations you will have are the ones that you have with yourself. Now, let me reframe this. I'm not telling you to walk around every day and literally talk to yourself in front of your colleagues, in front of your family, in front of your friends, okay? Because looking at the image here, we have a lot of question marks. No, I'm not telling you. But I'm just telling you to, and asking you, really, I'm asking you, because the decisions that you make moving forward after this presentation is your own. What I'm asking you to do, okay, is to think about, once again, how self-awareness and who you are reflects in everything that you do. Self-awareness areas, okay, that I'd like for you to think about is understanding that self-concept are the qualities that individuals attribute to themselves. What qualities do you attribute to yourself? Okay, an example of that is that you're outgoing. Okay, they always say that extroverts are the ones that make great salespeople, and I'm not going to argue that point, that that's not true. But according to Myers-Briggs, I'm an introvert. I know, it's like, wow. I love public speaking, but I'm considered an introvert, because when you look at all the communication, okay, that you do, or I do, and particularly, I'm really comfortable in one particular area, public speaking, okay? So therefore, Myers-Briggs says I'm an introvert. So here's my point with that statement. I believe that introverts and extroverts can be outstanding performers in their organizations. Think about what I'm saying. Introverts and extroverts can be outstanding performers in their organization. So what does that mean, ladies and gentlemen? You can either be an introvert or an extrovert. So that means that's you. Everybody can be an outstanding performer in his or her organization. So ask yourself, what qualities on your own do you say about yourself? Next is your self-esteem. How the individual feels about your self-concept. Okay. And lastly are those messages that we say to ourselves. I remember when I was in elementary school, my teacher, I can't remember if it was my first or second grade teacher, she would always tell us to line up in our line as we would get ready to go to lunch. And she would say, before we would leave our class, she said, I want you to remember as we go on in our day. She said, what? She said, you always say, I think I can. That was second grade when I learned that. I think I can is still relevant today because our society sends us so many messages conveying that we can't. Are you saying that to yourself? If you're saying that to yourself and you're trying to figure out why you're not connecting with clients as well as you would like, it's because you're saying you can't. Barbara Corcoran, who is with Shark Tank, she is a financial mogul. I teach this a lot in my classes where she was a D student in high school. Barbara Corcoran is doing well enough now. She's a Shark Tank hostess, okay? She decided that she was no longer, and what I read about her, she was no longer going to stay at the bottom, and she called herself a loser. She said she was no longer going to stay there, that she was going to be a winner. And the principles I just shared with you as we begin, self-concept, self-esteem, self-messages is what she focused on to improve her life. So you already have the tools to be an outstanding performer if you choose in your organization. And ladies and gentlemen, focusing on verbs, choice, asking, it's up to you. As we move forward, are there any questions that anyone has for me? Because I do ask if you have any questions periodically.
And feel free to take yourselves off of mute if you have a question or drop them in the chat box.
Okay. Let's move forward. Now that we understand the importance of self-awareness. So number 2 principle here is listening. And after all, our presentation today is entitled, Listen First, Sell Later. So naturally, we're going to move into listening. But you may ask yourself, well, why is she, me, Pere Fadrell, want to talk about listening after you talk about self-awareness? Because if you're a poor listener, I'm going to teach you the principles to recognize that you are, recognize who you are, and then move forward to be a better listener, which is the number 1 principle in any type of communication, sales, relationship. So the very intelligent President Calvin Coolidge said this. He conveyed that no man ever listened himself, and I'm going to add herself, out of a job. Let's think about that. No man or woman ever listened himself or herself out of a job. That means, ladies and gentlemen, it's impossible to lose a job if you're a good listener. It's impossible to be a poor customer service representative? By listening. It's impossible to be a poor, low financial, accumulating salesperson if you're listening. Listening, ladies and gentlemen, is the #1 way for you to improve your communication skills. It is #1. Absolutely. And so today, what we're going to talk about right now is for you to understand the difference between hearing and listening. So my definition for you reads, under listening one-on-one, it reads hearing. Hearing is the act of perceiving sound. It's the act of perceiving sound. So what that means is, as you are focusing in on sound, you know that there's sound out here, okay? If you walk outside, particularly this past weekend when we had a beautiful weather, you may hear birds chirping. My mother was talking about hearing robins yesterday. You'll hear birds chirping. In a few weeks, we'll hear bees buzzing. You'll go outside and you can hear people talking. If you are an active physical person, you'll hear people walking and talking on phones. All of that is perceiving sound. But listening is different. Listening is to wait attentively to the sound. That means you are taking the initiative. You are taking the first step to listening. So it's not natural. If you think listening is natural, you've been hearing. You've been hearing this whole time. Listening is action. Listening is for you, for me, for us to take that step, and you are attentively trying to hear sound. That's important because hearing means nothing. And why do I say that? Because you're not going to talk to every stranger that you hear walking by you outside. You're not going to pet every dog that's barking, or you're not going to try to capture or swat, if you will, every bee that's buzzing in a few weeks. You're not going to do that. All of that's hearing, but you know that's going on. But listening, particularly in the area of what we're focusing on, customer service, sales, that takes action. And so if you didn't know until now that you have to take action to listening, you've probably been hearing. But guess what? You know now. The first step is always going to be you. And we have to be open to do that. You have to be open to be an effective listener. You have to want to share that type of communication with another person. If you can do that, you're a good salesperson. I've been fortunate. I had a sales job where I needed to sell $100,000 worth of insurance in 12 months. The only license I had at the time was a whole life insurance license. I sold the $100,000 worth of insurance in 9 months because I recognized, and I admit, yeah, I do have a master's degree. I have a degree in communication where I learned those skills. But we're fortunate for you. I don't know what degrees or if you have any, but the skills I learned, I'm just sharing with you. I understood the value of a relationship. I understood that listening is the key. And now I'm partaking my information and I'm sharing it with you. But just as I just stated, that overall decision-making is yours. I just hope you make the right one that you're most comfortable with. Any questions? Okay, dynamic people, let's move forward. So what I'd like for you to do now is I have a little exercise here, and we're going to go through it together. And if you have a piece of paper beside you, a pen or a pencil, and you want to write down your answers, you can. Or if you want to memorize what your answers are as we move forward, that's perfectly okay with you. But here, what I'm doing is I'm going to ask you to answer these questions honestly so you can learn what kind of listener you are, because we're listening now, ladies and gentlemen, with a purpose. Number one. So moving forward here, the bullet reads, when someone is talking, I would like for you to put that part of the sentence on every one of these answers as you're thinking to yourself what kind of listener you are. So when someone is talking, I, number one, plan how I respond, usually. When someone is talking, I plan how I respond sometimes. When someone is talking, I plan how I will respond rarely. Is it A, B, or C? When someone is talking, I plan how I will respond usually, sometimes, or rarely. Think about that. Number two, when someone is talking, I keep my eye contact with that person, A, usually, B, sometimes, or C, rarely. When someone is talking, I, number two, keep my eye contact with that person, usually, which is A, sometimes, which is B, or C, rarely. Number three, when someone is talking, I, if possible, watch the body language when the person is speaking usually, B, sometimes, or C, rarely. Moving on to the next page. Number four, when someone is talking, I, number four, distracted by other demands on my time. Am I always distracted? A, usually, B, sometimes, or C, rarely. Then number five, when someone is talking, I listen clearly to the message without making judgments or evaluations. Do you do that A, usually? Do you do that sometimes? Or do you do that C, rarely? And then lastly, number six, when someone is talking, I ask questions to get a better understanding and repeat in my own words, meaning paraphrase what I think I heard. Do I do that A, usually? Do I do that sometimes, which is B? Or do I do that C, rarely? So those are the 6 questions, multiple choice questions that I have for you. I would like for you to look over your answers and then think about how many of those did you respond usually, sometimes, which is B, or C, rarely. And if you're looking down at the page on scoring, okay, it reads, if you are answered at least 4 usuallys, you are considered an active listener. Kudos to you. If you've answered half sometimes and half usually, you're a good listener, but there's room for improvement. If you answered rarely to most of the questions, then active listening skills needs to be a focus of yours, okay? Which is fine. We're all winners no matter what, but we just need to know, again, focusing on being self-aware, recognizing who you are, and now taking the first step in understanding what type of listener you are is the key to improving ourselves. And improving ourselves is what each and every one of us ought to want to strive to do on a daily basis. So let's move forward and talk a little bit more about listening. So active listening truly involves the listener as well as the speaker. Okay, and that makes sense because when the speaker is speaking, we need to be listening. So active listening involves patience. And I say that because, and I put emphasis on patience, because if you find when you were learning a little bit about yourself in a few slides ago about being self-aware, if you find that when your colleague is speaking with you, if a client is asking you a question, if a client is asking you for direction to help him or her understand the product that he or she is trying to purchase, if you find that you're just so keyed up, okay, that you want to move forward and you want to move to the next client and you're trying to just move through this whole situation where it's not a relationship, it's all about you getting a sale, then you don't have patience. And I can tell you from a sales background that if you focus on selling, you're going to sell, but you know what you're not going to do? You're not going to make a relationship with that person, okay? If, for instance, I come into a store, I come into a hotel, okay, and I want to check into a room that has a king size bed, okay, and you're focusing on king size bed, making sure that I have the room, non-smoking room on the first floor, you're going to get that met. You're going to look through whatever technology that you need to look through to get that king size bed for me, the client. Okay. But if you don't ask, well, what brings you to our hotel today? Are you new to Roanoke? Are you new to Danville? Are you new to Greensboro? If you don't ask those relationship forming questions, you're going to give me my king size bedroom. But when I come back, if I'm new, or if I'm a resident of Danville, when I come back, I'm not going to really search for Correa. I'm going to look for any to the person that can get me my king size room first. That means you've lost potential sale from me when I come back again and again and again. Or it could be that I don't choose your hotel anymore. Because you know what? There are a lot of hotels here that have king size beds in a single room. So why do I need to come to your hotel? So here's my point, ladies and gentlemen. If you just focus on the product, if you just focus on the sales number, you're going to get that met, but you're going to work so much harder because you got to constantly focus on the numbers. And I understand from sales, it's all about numbers. People are crowned to be good salespeople or poor salespeople by the bottom line, by how many sales they sell. So if that's what you're focusing on, you're going to constantly look for new clients, constantly, because you're hearing what they're saying, you're getting their answers met, you're getting their needs met, but you hadn't formed a relationship. When from one person, you can have 5 sales because you formed a relationship instead of 1 sale. If you focus on a sale, you're going to have to find 5 people to meet that sale. Each sale, 5 people, 5 separate people. When you formed a relationship, I, happy client with Correa, will tell my friend Jamie, oh my goodness, Correa really helped me at the hotel, or Corey really helped me at the department store, or Corey really helped me at whatever establishment is that I was looking for. Corey helped me. Contact her. All because you listened. You formed a relationship. You were empathetic. You were caring. And then instead of you outwardly looking for the sales are coming to you. That's the power of listening. So when we're in sales, listening equals learning. When you're making that relationship and you're building that relationship, you ask the client, am I answering your questions? Is there anything else I can help with? So you want a king size bedroom on the first floor, ma'am, am I correct? That is called verification of content. Because if you're just hearing king size bedroom and you weren't really listening to what all she had or he had or the customer had to say, you may not know exactly what floor that person wants to be on. What if that person is scared of heights? Okay, so I think we got the importance here of effective listening. So with that conveyed here, if we look at the diagram, the image that I have, okay, when we're moving into sales, you don't ever want that person looking at the lady to the left of the bullhorn there. You don't ever want that person to feel like you're yelling at them, that you're just such a pushy person that is, oh my gosh, just let me get my product and move on. That's not how we gain clients, and that's not how we form really good relationships. So I must convey to you what examples of poor listening is. And interrupting the customer is never a positive thing to do. You don't want to not give eye contact and respond to that person. You look at that person in the eyes as you're talking with him or her, because eye contact, as the expression goes, is the window to the soul. So that is the most important way that you are bridging a relationship, that you're forming a relationship with that person by looking at that person in the eyes as that person is speaking to you. If you don't show any enthusiasm or interest in a customer. So now I'm thinking about hotels. My mind is all in hotels. So if the customer comes to you and they want that king size one bed in your hotel, if you're saying, okay, so you want a king size room, let me see what we have here. And not making eye contact, not being enthused and really appreciating that person, okay, then yes, you are a poor listener. This is all about the sale. Remember, you don't want it to be about the sale. You want to be about the relationship. So let that person know in your smile, in your nonverbal communication, in your tone, that you appreciate that person for coming into your store, for calling into your establishment. You want to appreciate him or her. And you're not doing that if you don't check for understanding, paraphrasing. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're too eager to sell, then that's going to come across. That is going to come across like a neon light to that person. And let me tell you what's going to happen here, okay? If I come in, and I've been in this situation as a customer, if I come in and I want those pair of shoes, I know that you're eager to sell, and I will probably stay to get those shoes, depending upon how badly I want those shoes and my overall feeling about the situation. But I'm not going to come back to you because you didn't form a relationship. It was all about, as the red sign here reads, sales. Okay? If it's just about sales, you may sell that one time, but you're not going to sell to me again and again, because we hadn't formed a relationship. There's no trust building there. And you may think, my goodness, Corey Fadrell, just how long is it going to take for us to have this relationship formed? You can form a relationship with that person right there on the spot by giving him or her eye contact moving forward. You're paying attention to what that person is saying. You're using body language that communicates that you appreciate that person being there. You're summarizing and paraphrasing what you think you've heard, you've listened to, and you want to make sure that you're providing that person with the attentive, active listening skills that is needed, okay? You're giving that speaker, you're articulate in your thoughts, and you're remaining calm and in control. Those are the skills. Moving forward, having self-control is extremely important. The most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said. Point 3, having self-control. Being defensive has no place in positive communication. Being a defensive salesperson, being a defensive colleague has no place, no value in communication. Using evaluative speech, having control, using strategy and superiority and certainty, looking at the diagram of the lady that looks like she's yelling in the phone, how are you going to win anyone that way? So let's say, for instance, that you have someone that's come to your establishment and he or she ordered something, okay, that was incorrect, and they thought they ordered something, and they are arguing with you and saying, I did order this correctly. It's your establishment that didn't give me the order that I needed. As they say, customers are always correct. You can tell that person that, okay, ma'am, so we want to make sure that you understand that we're sorry for the oversight. We appreciate you. How can we rectify this purchase? How can we continue to make you happy? And if you find, and we see this every Christmas, over and over, establishments, Target, different retailers especially, are getting that understanding, which is why their return policy is becoming more of a productive and more open for the customer than it is necessarily for the establishment. Customer returns, they're giving them longer opportunities to return the package. Receipts are valuable, but if they can find other ways to prove that you have purchased that information, if you don't have the receipt, so that they're doing that. So establishments are really focusing on how it is that I can make you, the customer, happy. They're not using strategy to show that I'm smarter than you, or choose a superiority to say, okay, you're wrong and I'm right. That is not the way to win. And to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, there is so much competition out there that if you use that as a strategy, a lot of customers are just going to walk. They'll find another place, another establishment to meet their needs. And in the United States, we're a blessed country. We'll do that very quickly. So please don't communicate that out there when you're focusing and talking with people in meetings or in a customer service situation. So the key here is to be patient, show empathy, which is really what we've been talking about, okay? Show empathy with the person that you're connecting with. Empathy is the ability to identify emotionally with others and demonstrate a willingness to care enough to understand. You're just caring about people. You form a relationship when you're looking at a person, when you're talking, when you're paraphrasing, making sure that you have an understanding. That's empathy. And then you want a social dissenter. Place focus of communication elsewhere other than yourself. It's not about you, it's about the customer. And if you're doing that, ladies and gentlemen, then you understand the importance of appreciating, being genuine, and making that person feel important. That is how you get Sally to come back to you. That is how you get Sally to tell her friends to talk to you, because she has felt important. Lastly, okay, we're going to talk about, because I want to answer any questions you may have. We want to talk about the importance of being positive and knowing your product. And the great Willie Nelson has said, once you replace negative thoughts with positive ones, you'll have positive results. That is the key. If you're not happy, going back to being self-aware, if you're not happy with what it is that you're doing, ladies and gentlemen, your colleagues, the customers may not be telling you this, but they can see it. Having a half full glass mentality is what's going to help you, especially in sales. It is the number one thing. So how do we do this? How do we remain positive? Number one, know the benefits of your product and your brand. If I'm asking you how many rooms, if we're calling and I'm talking with you on the phone, how many rooms your hotel has, you need to know that immediately. You don't need to go look in your book or look at someone's webpage or find out how many rooms is in your hotel. Okay, how many floors? What time is housekeeping? Those type of things, those are the basics. Know your brand, know your product when you're talking with people. That's the way that you get them to come back to you because you're knowledgeable. Number two, if a customer has a complaint or concern, try to help that person. I used to be an international flight attendant. I did that while I was at undergraduate school. And I remembered I was going on a flight to Tel Aviv, Israel. And it was a gentleman, one of the passengers, who said that he had bought a kosher meal. That's a way that it's prepared. And he didn't get a kosher meal. I didn't argue with that man. I apologized on behalf of our airline. Okay. And he, because he didn't want to eat the food that was prepared, even though I didn't prepare the food. So he didn't want any other meal. And so I spoke with the beverage service, the food beverage service, and they gave him a refund check. Okay. So those are the things that you do. Even if in my situation, I didn't prepare his food, I wasn't one that took his order, I still apologized on behalf of the airline. And I could tell he was agitated at first, but he was much calmer and appreciative after he saw me take the time to rectify the situation. Why did I do that well? Because I formed a relationship. Number three, be proactive, optimistic, and creative. I creatively got to the food and beverage service on the airline as quickly as I could to make that passenger happy. And number four, include humor if it's suitable. If you're a funny person, include humor when you're talking with people. If you find that people give you kind of odd looks when you're trying to tell a joke, then it's not exactly funny. It could be offensive. And if you offend a person, that is a very great way to lose that customer. You want to most definitely make that person feel appreciated, because it is possible for you to be a great salesperson, and you're able to do it if you know who you are first. So in closing, customer satisfaction is worthless. Customer service, ladies and gentlemen, is loyalty and is priceless. So let's work together to be the absolute best customer service representative, great, best leader, the best performer in your organization that you possibly can be. I know you have the tools. I'm hopeful that the presentation and the points and the tips I've shared with you today will enable you to do exactly what it is that you hope to do. And ladies and gentlemen, you want to strive. Are there any questions that you may have for me? I'm going to close down my screen here. Okay, so, all right, so I'm reading here a couple of things. It reads, what is the best way for customer service agents to provide excellent hospitality while a customer is going on and on for 20 minutes? Well, it really pertains on what the customer is going on about. If that person is going on and complaining about the product and the organization for 20 minutes, this is what you do. You do not need to just continue to listen to that, okay? But you don't want to be rude. So you affirm that person. You affirm that person, say, first of all, I thank you so much for being a customer, being loyal. We appreciate loyalty. And I understand that you have this particular issue. Let us go ahead and answer and address that issue so you can move forward with your day and therefore continue to be a loyal customer with us. So what I'm saying to you is you don't have to just listen to that comment listen to those complaints, do exactly what I did with the airline. You get that person immediately what it is that he or she wants. If you can't do that immediately, then you tell them that we're working on it, we value you, and you move forward. Any other questions? I hope I addressed that question, Maddie. All right, if there aren't any questions, let's see, 6 minutes. Well, we have 6 minutes. I didn't know if Danielle, if you all are accustomed to going straight to 1 o'clock, I'm willing to answer any other questions that you may have. It's a lot of material that I have presented to you.
Feel free to drop them in the chat. We still have a couple of more minutes left. If not, we can give you your 6 minutes back.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. So you're asking, how can people contact me? My communication, if it's okay with you, Danielle, I can send my email address to you. I know that the chamber has that. That should be under directory. You can contact me on LinkedIn. Okay. And in fact, I'm going to ask you to, if you are happy with the presentation and the information and the tips I provided for you today, please note that on my LinkedIn account. I would really appreciate that. And when you do that, please tell me about today in the organization where you had that opportunity to hear those tips. People like to hear exactly where I have been and where I've provided those tips. So I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely. We'll provide the email as well as the recording.
Let's see, someone has written here, can we use this for our sales department as well as our work floor? I'm not exactly sure. You can hire me to do that. Definitely. I'm very open to Zoom calls. I do not share my PowerPoints with all organizations because that's my own particular material, but I will definitely be more than willing to go to any organization and we can negotiate a fee and move forward. I hope I answered your question, Mr. Harper. Okay, thank you so much, Ashley, who is a banking professional. Banking is tough because you know why? And let me state this if I may. I used to work at a credit union where I was saying about my financial background. I would go into a credit union and people didn't even know that my insurance organization that I worked for was there. So meaning that if you went to XYZ banking, credit union and you walked in and you wanted to check your checking account, I'm waiting in the wings here for you at my desk for you to come back by my desk. And then I would stop you, encourage you to come and talk about how whole life insurance would better your life. And you didn't even come in to talk about whole life insurance. That was my sales background where I was able to sell $100,000 worth of insurance in 9 months. So I was very blessed. I was able to do that really well because I understood the importance of forging that relationship with people. So thank you, Ashley. Well, Danielle, it reads here we have 3 more minutes. If there aren't any other questions, I will let you begin or continue.
Thank you, Corey. That was a wonderful, wonderful presentation. I got so much out of it. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Everyone, thank you for being here. Please check out our other events. There will be some in person and some continuing on Zoom on our website. And I hope everybody has a great day and a great week. Happy Women's International Day.
Yes, happy Women's International Day. You're great people. I look forward to working with all of you again. Contact me.